I've recently realized I have so many fountain pen inks. Some of them are full-size bottles and some of them are just little sample vials from friends, but I really didn't know what I had, what was a shimmer, what wasn't, and I thought it would be good to organize them into their own notebook. Hi, I'm Erin. Let's start a fountain pen ink swatch library. I've chosen this notebook for the task. It's from a brand called My Paperclip. They very kindly gifted me this notebook and it calls itself fountain pen friendly on the website, and I am trusting it wholeheartedly. I don't know very much about fountain pen papers, and this one has recycled paper, but it is 90 GSM and from what I can tell has held up pretty well to being pummeled with some fountain pen ink. And I already had it in my possession, so it seemed like a pretty good place to start. I must be on a bit of a swatch library notebook kick because I did recently do this for my marker collection as well. I chose to organize the marker library notebook by color because generally when I'm choosing a pen color, it's to match something I'm planning to use in a journal theme, but when it comes to the inks, it's a little bit different. So many of them, I actually had no idea what color they would be. They were in vials. A lot of them just look black when they're in their in-bottle state. And I actually don't have that many full-size fountain pen inks, but I have lots and lots of samples. So I decided to organize this notebook instead of by color, because I wasn't totally sure what color things were going to be, by the amount of the ink that I have instead. So we're starting off with the full-sized inks, which I have a whole bottle of. I'm making sure that I get a lot of representation of the color here because I have plenty of the ink to play with. In this kind of a strip, I'm using cotton buds or Q-tips, depending where you're from, what you call them, to make a scribbly line with lots of different amounts of color saturation on the page, and then I'm adding a little scribble through that with a glass dip pen and also lettering the brand and the name of the ink underneath, as well as the size of the bottle of it that I have. I have entirely stolen my swatching method inspiration from Hi Julia here. I don't think I'm executing it quite the same way she does. I'm pretty sure she uses a spoon to make her swatches, but the end result is pretty similar to what Julia comes up with, so I wanted to shout her out. Her channel is amazing and so is her Instagram, so I definitely recommend having a look if you aren't familiar with her. The journal I'm using for this has dot grid paper, which is very helpful for me because it's what I'm used to as a bullet journal enthusiast. So the dot grid really helped me to keep things lined up and straight and around about the same height each time. I'm being pretty generous with these first swatches because these are the inks that I have the most of, and I don't know that I could ever really use up a whole bottle, but we'll see. I'm still pretty new to the whole fountain pen thing. But for some of my later swatches, for most of them actually, because I only have a smaller amount of those inks, I'll be making my swatches about half the size of these ones, just so I'm not using all of what I have in my swatch journal and never actually getting to do anything else with it. I've got plenty of page left over here because this is actually the last of my full-size inks, so let's have a really close-up look at these ones. I feel like the shimmer doesn't always show up so well in the kind of lighting that I shoot my videos in, so we'll also have a little shimmer check so you can really see that sparkle. I personally really enjoy some shimmer and some glitter in an ink, but there is one pen in particular that I have that I can't use those inks in, so I like to be really certain of which ones have it and which ones don't. Moving on to my next category and starting a fresh page for these ones, I'm calling these official samples because these are small amounts of ink, but they're in a branded bottle from whichever brand the ink is from. That's just going to help me locate them quickly if I decide I want to use one of these inks, and actually since setting up this journal I have referred to it quite a bit, especially since I've been getting into some italic and some uncial calligraphy, and I like using the dip nibs to do that. I think it can be really fun to have a really interesting ink color for a very traditional style of lettering, so I have been referring to this book a bit more than I would have expected. It's possible there might come a time where I would find it more useful to have these arranged in something like a color order, so in that case I can now use these swatches as a reference to organize the inks before I do that. If that's something I decide to do in the future, I think that would be really helpful. I'm also trying to make sure I build in some flexibility, so leaving some blank spaces for me to add more inks as I gain more, especially in the section of the book that is samples that I've received from friends, because they are definitely my main source. They are very generous with their inks, they're so sweet, and that's where most of them came from, so I've definitely got to leave some space for more of those in the future. Let's take a closer look at the official samples page once everything has dried down, and also have a little shimmer check. Now it's really time to get into it. We're going to start swatching all of the inks that are in little sample tubes that my friends have given me. I have so many, check this out, and some of them are in some unconventional little containers as well. I have done some swatching of some of these inks in the past when I was given them by my wonderful friends, and I have references for that in my bullet journal, so I have been referring to those to kind of work out ways to categorize them. So at the moment I'm going with the system where I categorize my samples based on who gave them to me. When I first expressed an interest in getting into fountain pens and inks, my friend Judy, she is an absolute angel, she's so sweet. She set me up with a whole kit, with a pen, with a converter, with a bunch of inks, and with a little syringe so that I could play with things at home myself and learn what I liked and what I didn't. These are the inks that Judy gave me that very first time. As well as Judy, I have another friend who has supplied me with some beautiful samples. I believe every time she buys something from so-and-so, she gets some samples for me as well, which is so sweet. These samples are from both Jackie and Judy because I received them on the same evening and I have lost track of which ones came from which person. Whenever I have a question about fountain pens or inks or anything at all to do with these things, these two women are the ones I turn to. I'm so grateful to have had their guidance through this process, and I think Weirdingul, this Korean brand, I really like their inks. They seem like they're right up my alley. One thing I have done when organizing these swatches is try to make sure that I keep all of the inks of the same brand together on the page. So all of the Weirdingul inks together, and then I'll have all of the Ferris Wheel Press inks together, all of the, well, I've only got two here, but Journalize inks together, and so on and so forth, just to make things a little bit more streamlined. This is actually just the first page of a few from these lovely ladies, but I wanted to show you the close-up details and the sparkle, the sheen, of course, before we move on to the next page. I actually think it's so funny that I was trying to keep my hands clean by wearing gloves throughout this process because I could not tell you why, but it did not work at all. I set this journal up and filmed it over the course of a few hours because you have to obviously wait for the pages to dry before you can turn them, and that can be a little bit time consuming. And I had places to go after this, I had other videos to film in the following days. I didn't really want to have ink-stained fingers, and that always happens to me. You can see from the gloves there how much ink I've got on my fingers as it is. But somehow I managed to entirely cover my right hand in blue ink, so when I took off the glove, I looked like a Smurf. I recently heard George Dunnett describe the gloves as unsettling gloves in a recent video of his, and I think he's right in that description, so my apologies for the unsettling gloves. In the end, they didn't really help anyway. Let's have a look at the sheen and shimmer and a close look at the inks on this page too. Onward to my last page of swatches of inks from Judy and Jackie. These women really do keep me in beautiful things, and they know what I like too, so I am very excited about so many of these inks. I think it's time that I really start using them. Most of these have been hanging out in my cupboard because I've been a little bit intimidated by the entire concept of fountain pens. As much as I've been enjoying them, I find them to be kind of a lot. There's a lot of new terminology involved, there are some skills involved in maintaining and cleaning the pens, and I think I'm ready to step up to that. Having all of these inks swatched in my journal is really making me want to use them, which is fantastic. So if you're quite a well-versed in fountain pens kind of person, I would love to know what's a tip that you would give a beginner, because maybe me and the other beginners in the comments down below could really use that advice. time to dedicate another page of fountain pen swatches to another lovely woman. These ones are from my friend Shimmer, who actually sent me these fountain pen ink samples all the way from England for Christmas, which is so lovely and sweet. She really wanted to make sure I had plenty of the inks that she knew I would like, so she sent full vials of several inks and multiples of them too, which is so considerate. We did have a little bit of leaking happen, but it wasn't too bad. Everything was still usable, and she also labeled them for me, which is so thoughtful. Thank you, Shimmer. Let's have a look close up and of course give them a shimmer check. I am already so incredibly spoiled to have all these lovely people in my life who happily will share their inks with me, but it actually gets even better. I am so lucky to live in a city that has actually a thriving stationery culture, which I didn't realize until after I started to look into things. Every month on the last Saturday of the month in Brisbane, there is a fountain pen meetup at a local bar. People who are interested in fountain pens just bring along whatever parts of their collection they would like. Sometimes they are themed, and they just share the joy of fountain pens and inks with each other for 2 hours, and it is so lovely and wholesome. I've only managed to make it 3 times in the past approximately 1 year, but every time it has been so lovely and so fulfilling. I've learned so much from the people there, and I've managed to get some ink samples from some of those folks as well, although in the moment I was so excited I didn't necessarily note down what those inks were. Hence the title of this category, Mystery Inks, which are all of the ink samples I have that are not labelled. Also, one particularly extremely knowledgeable gentleman, shout out to Andrew, has the most interesting ink sharing method that I have come across yet. My friends and I have completely stolen that system from him because we like it so much. It's using these little soy sauce packet fish to collect and share samples of ink so that they can be in this little squeezy delivery method that's really handy and easy to share with people. It's just such a novel idea, I really like it, but I have discovered through discussing these ink fish in my private Discord server with my channel members that this is not necessarily the normal way of getting soy sauce with your sushi in other places. This is how we get our soy sauce with our sushi in Australia. It comes in this little fish-shaped soy sauce package. So now I'm really curious about soy sauce delivery methods in other parts of the world. If you could let me know how you get your soy sauce with your sushi in your country, I'd really love to know. They also aren't the easiest thing to label, so unfortunately I have quite a few inkfish here with very interesting ink samples in them, but I don't actually know what they are, so I might be relying on you guys again to help me work out what some of these are. I do have references in my bullet journal, and I've been able to suss out a few of them because of that, but the ones that we don't have a note on here at the end of this section of the video are the ones that I really need your help to determine what those inks are. So particularly this orange and this kind of fluoro green. The orange doesn't have a color shift, I just forgot to wash my pen. Here's a really close look in case that helps at all. And the acid green one in the fish is the only ink that I've used here that has any shimmer to it, but it has so much shimmer that some of it has transferred to some of the other ink swatches. That is a powerful shimmer, and I've got to say, I respect it. I was so keen on the utility of this journal, having it as a reference, that I have not set up a cover page or anything for it yet. I'm sure I will come back and add this later, but let's have a flip through of everything that I've done so far. I'm trying out some new content areas on my channel at the moment, and fountain pens and fountain pen inks aren't something that I've placed a lot of focus on until now. This is the first video I've made that really focuses on that. Usually I do feature them in my vlogs every month a little bit, but let me know your thoughts if this is something you're interested in. The view count will obviously gauge some interest for me, but I'm very interested to hear from you as well. And even if you're not personally interested in fountain pens and inks, hopefully if you're still here watching this at the end of this video, you got kind of an ASMR benefit out of just watching me make some pretty shapes with some pretty colors, because I definitely enjoyed watching this kind of thing before I got into it too. I'm so excited to see how this notebook grows and expands. I have so many pages still to fill, and it's going to be an adventure filling those up. I'm also learning to embrace the buckled pages. I feel like that's just part of the deal when you're working with fountain pen inks in this kind of paper. I'm sure I'll learn to love it, and yes, I did spill some ink on the cover of the journal on the elastic already. If you're keen to keep hanging out and watching some more videos from me, here are links to 2 videos that YouTube thinks you'll enjoy. And if I've inspired you to go and swatch your whole fountain pen ink collection too, send me a photo of your hands when you're done.